Most of the advice you see on YouTube for people over 50 is produced by 22-year-olds who have never actually lost anything. They tell you it's never too late, like it's a bumper sticker. But if you're 60 and you just watched your retirement account or your marriage evaporate, bumper sticker isn't going to help you sleep at night.
We're not here to give you a "you can do it" speech. We're here to talk about the tactical reality of rebuilding when the world thinks you should already be finished. We're sharing what we learned while we were actually standing in the wreckage of our own lives. There are 3 lies that keep you from taking the one step that actually matters. That step is starting exactly where you are today with whatever you have left. Lie number 1 is it's too late to catch up.
The first trap is thinking you need to catch up. You hear yourself saying, I'm 58, I'm 60, I missed my window. But the reality is, you aren't catching up to anyone because you aren't running their race. I spent 20 years as a banquet chef. When you're responsible for feeding 2,000 people breakfast, lunch, and dinner for 5 days straight, disasters happen. If someone burns 500 portions of chicken you need for dinner an hour before a service, panic tells you the night is ruined. But a chef doesn't have the luxury of locking the doors. You don't stand around mourning the ruined food or the lost prep time. You look at what needs to happen right this second to get the next meal out. You prioritize, you pivot, you use the grit you've built over thousands of services to make a new plan. Rebuilding your life is exactly like that. You aren't looking at the 30 years you lost to a bad business deal or addiction. You are looking at the 15 or 20 years of high quality life you could have left. A younger person has energy, but they don't have your mise en place. They don't have your station set. You know how to prioritize when everything is on fire. You know how to cut through the noise.
The mainstream advice says age is just a number. We say age is your leverage. A 25-year-old has speed, sure, but they don't have your experience. They haven't walked enough miles to recognize a bad deal before the ink is dry. You have. You've been burned enough to recognize the smoke before the fire even starts.
You aren't starting from zero. You're starting with a massive prep list of lessons a younger person hasn't even begun to learn. You are starting with resilience that only comes from living through the seasons where everything went wrong, yet you are still standing. And this brings us to lie number 2. You should be further along. The word should is a trap, and it doesn't always start in our own heads. Often it's a narrative handed to us by someone else to keep us from moving forward.
That's exactly how it was for me. When I was in the cycle of abuse and left previously, that should didn't come from me. It came from my ex. He would tell me, you can't make it on your own. You should just come home so we can make it work. It was a way to make me feel small, like I was incapable of surviving without him. And it was a way he controlled me, thinking that maybe we could make it work.
It's a classic control tactic. They use your fear of the unknown to make the cage feel like the only safe place left.
When I finally stayed away for good, I only had a single suitcase, a backpack, and less than $50 in my pocket. That was my entire reality at 50 years old. The voice I had to fight wasn't my own. It was his voice echoing in my head telling me I should have a stable home by now instead of being terrified and starting over.
That shame is heavy. I used to look at guys I grew up with, peers who were retiring with boats and second homes, and feel like I was a failure because I was starting over. But rebuilding isn't about chasing a ghost of a timeline.
No, it's about the raw honesty of the moment you're in.
When you're in the survival stage of a rebuild, should makes you rush. It leads to desperate, panicked moves because you feel behind. You're exactly where you need to be to build a structure that actually lasts.
Honesty is where the clarity starts. If you have $50, you have $50. Don't waste a single drop of energy wishing it was $50,000. Use that energy to figure out the plan for that 50. That is how you find your footing. Line number 3 is no one understands. This one is the sneakiest. It uses your unique pain to build a cage of isolation. It tells you that because no one fully understands your exact betrayal or your exact loss, no one can help you, so you stay isolated.
Over the years, I've sat in hundreds of meetings with people rebuilding after 50. Almost everyone walks in thinking they're the only one. They think their specific mess is completely unique. But when you hear a professional, a grandmother, or a former executive admit they lost it all to the same bottle or the same bad habit, the lie dies.
The isolation happens in layers. The very first time I tried to leave, I ended up in a women's shelter. To cope, I found a way to isolate myself right there. I would look around and tell myself my experience wasn't as bad as theirs was. And I actually did see my abuse as less severe than the other women. But the reality was that what I went through was simply too heavy to share. I didn't want others to judge me. And to be honest, I was really afraid.
It becomes a habit to carry it all yourself.
Exactly. Then by the fifth time I left, which was the final time, the isolation shifted. When I did try to speak up, people either didn't believe me or they were too afraid of my ex to get involved. You learn to stay silent to protect yourself, and that just becomes another way to stay isolated.
You are not alone in the rebuilding. There are people right now watching this video who are standing in the same ruins you are. The lie says no one understands. The truth says many are walking with you. Now, these three lies, they can carry a heavy price tag. Every day you choose to believe that you're too old, that you're behind, or that you're alone, you're paying for it. There is a literal cost to staying stuck.
The first cost is time, and it ties directly to the lie that it is too late. When you're 60, you know time is your most valuable asset. Every month you spend paralyzed by the idea that you missed your window. It's a month you aren't building a new life. That is a month of joy, peace, and stability that you never get back.
Then there is the financial cost, which feeds right into the shame of thinking you should be further along. If you are too ashamed to open your bank statements or look at your debt, that debt just keeps growing. The cost of inaction is almost always higher than the cost of a mistake. You can fix a mistake, you can't fix a year of doing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Finally, there is the emotional cost, fueled by the lie that no one understands. Believing you are entirely alone keeps you in a state of chronic stress. It affects your health, your sleep, and your ability to connect with people who actually want to help. Rebuilding is hard, yes, but staying isolated is a wreckage, and that wreckage is much, much harder.
Donna and I smile today. We actually enjoy our lives now because we stopped believing these lies. Rebuilding doesn't have to be a massive, overwhelming mountain. Sometimes it just looks like opening that one bank statement that you've been avoiding.
Mm-hmm. It starts with dropping the shame. Take a single steady breath and realize your value isn't tied to your bank account or your past mistakes.
If you're ready to stop guessing and want a clear starting point, we built a free assessment at rebuildwithclarity.com. It is designed to help you see exactly where you are in the 3 stages: survival, stability, and strategy.
And if you're still feeling like the pressure to work harder to fix everything at once, you need to watch our video on the try harder myth.
You aren't too late, you aren't behind, and you aren't alone. So we'll see you in the next video.